But what does this mean? We already need to a city. Do we still need such ordinances? Or sensitization is only enough? Definitely, Anguyo Jimmy Baiga, the head of gender at Arua Police, that's in Western Sub-Region, will also really be here to tell us more about that. And he will be briefing us about what this ordinance will imply and how it is going to be impacting on families, because gender-based violence has remained gender-based violence. And he will be explaining to us still the forms of gender-based violence, because I do understand that it is both physical and emotional. That means your word may also really be termed as gender-based violence. And that is why if at all somebody reports you, then definitely police may be the only place where you are going to be finding yourself in there. And that's why we're saying we must avoid issues of gender-based violence within our families. Also, really, that's also really where we are going to be also really beginning our discussions out on. Later on, he will be joining us as we also really await to have him on the board here. And that is where also we want to say, we want to thank whoever also really loves being that's West Nile in there, because if at all we are not doing that, then definitely we are not going to make sure that our region changes. And to change our region, definitely it needs me and you who is a West Nile in there, and because nobody is going to come to our rescue and also really make sure that we change our region in there. And that is one thing also really I feel I need to let you know of as the viewer, because if at all we do not do that, then definitely that is where we are going to be lagging behind, and that's where we are not going to be proud, and that's where we are going to be called Drijarus, because if at all you're not proud of where you come from, then definitely the language itself is where you are not going to be speaking. Then secondly, the food, you are going to abandon it and cherish other people's tribes, and that's where we are saying we need to also make sure that we love the region that we are in. And now to begin our discussions right away with, in Arua Hospital yesterday there was excitement following the launch of ICT Lab, which is now going to be a center that's also ready for research and innovation, which I really want to say is quite good, because for the doctors and the nurses, for them to have this computer lab, really to me is something that has been long overdue in terms of research, in terms of record keeping, which now we are going to be seeing happening in there. And now the newly established Information and Communication Center, which is already at Arua Regional Referral Hospital, has caused a lot of excitement. That is also to the medics and also the other health workers in there. This is already where they are going to be having access to internet, and now the hub, which is also meant to ease access to internet for health workers, already was officially launched at the government facility, which was yesterday, where we did see a number of the government staff already now being also expressing excitement. That means they have waited for this opportunity for a long period of time, and now what awaits is how are they going to be utilizing this opportunity to also make sure that that facility does not go into waste. And that is where also I want to say, and we need to make sure that this facility is not put into waste, that solely each and everybody gets benefit from it. And that is where also they want to say it shouldn't only be limited to the medics, the doctors first of all, and also each and everybody who is there. So long as you are working within the hospital, you need to make sure that also you use this facility to better up the service delivery, because it is me and you to also make sure that happens. Other than that, there's nothing also absolutely, I mean nothing that is going to be changing. And that's where we're saying we are also really there to make sure that that also changes. And during the launch of the hub, we did see Joyce Anite, a senior nursing officer at Arua Regional Referral Hospital, express gratitude to the Health Service Commission for coming to their also the aid, saying they have been spending a lot of money to do research, and that means that is where also really they will be now also taking advantage, other than where they have been wasting a lot of money to make sure that they go on. But that is also something we did see happening, and I really feel we need to also make sure that that goes on as planned in there. And now that is also where we did see, according to Victor Waiswan, the Health Service Authority Commission ICT officer, said they have installed a total of 8 equipment that is at the Arua Regional Hospital ICT Lab, and they hope that this is going to be also helping, that's the medics, in terms of also doing their activities in there. And Professor Pius Okong, the chairperson of the Health Service Commission, said one of the things the commission does is to ensure that health workers have access to what we call, that is also computers and internet for their own good, so that they can also really do research and improve on their knowledge in different fields, also really including government policies in there. That means the research is also not going to be only be applied in the injections, and then it will also go into policies in terms of the laws. What are the laws saying in terms of the ordinances? What are they saying? What are the bylaws being developed saying? saying definitely the medics also really still will be also using that opportunity to enrich themselves, because one person and one thing that also really each and everybody must ensure always is bettering up themselves in terms of also really research, in terms of knowledge, because if at all you are not getting the knowledge, then definitely trust me, you may also really continue to lag behind, which may not be right. And that's why we're saying people must take advantage of learning, and to learn more is actually through the internet. Today we have so many opportunities where so many things are at the disposal of just that smartphone you're using, just that computer, but we still have many people who do not want to learn, and that is where the problem is. But we are saying with artificial intelligence we must take the advantage and initiative of learning by ourselves, because that is where things have been made easy, and that's where we're also saying you must make sure at least that you better yourself. And we did see similarly Dr. Ian Asimwe, the acting director of Arua Regional Referral Hospital, has said the ICT lab has come timely for the health workers in the region in terms of also doing research in there, and I really feel that is the truth. And that is one thing also really which I feel we need to give keen interest to, because if at all we are not giving interest, then definitely we are going to be also really making sure that we lag behind, which may not be right. And I really feel that is where we need to leave the discussions with in terms of relation to the ICT. But now we expect one thing, individual responsibility in terms of the usage. What am I meaning here? It means that we must use this facility properly. I do not want to see the medics also just wasting the internet, or not even at all taking advantage of it. That is also something which is possible if at all they're not going to be giving time to also have the chance of sitting on these computers on the internet also to make research in, and that would also mean a disservice in terms of also the service provision in there, because we want to see them bettering themselves up. And that is where I want to leave that discussion aside with. And now let's move to Yumbe, where in Yumbe district yesterday, we did see the cultural gala for the youth and children going on. But I must inform you that what we did see there was quite unique and exciting, where the community was able to be joined by the refugee community of South Sudan. And this is something really I want to say was quite nice to me, because I was amazed by that. And we did see the chiefs coming together and also to be part of what we call the cultural festival in there. And this did go on. That is at Boma Grounds, that is in Yumbe district. So, and apparently that's one thing we did see happening, and which has never been happening in there. But now, according to the leaders, now they are vying for this activity to be annually. That's to help in cultural preservation. And how can we make sure our cultures are first of all protected and preserved for future generations is also really another thing that also really which we need to give keen interest to. And with the Alurus, we have seen them doing it out, and I really want to say that is where we have seen them often doing the cultural gala. And recently, I also attended one in Arua city for the Arua community, which was something nice, because we did see the Alurus being brought together. And for somebody who did not know that he was not an Alur, we would also really definitely get to know that this brother of his, who always speaks the other language, Kumbe, is our own. And that's where the unity also starts in. And yesterday we did see also the community now doing theirs. Madi also did theirs some time back at the headquarters, which now I believe is also an annual event. And all this, by the way, have an implication on cultural preservation today, because we are talking about cultural degeneration, where our cultures are facing a lot of threats that's of extinction from also really some of the European cultures, which also really some people are saying is not right. And that is where also really we are saying, other than also really wanting to copy other people's cultures, why don't we build on our own? Why don't we protect it for future generations? Is already something we did see as message for also really the people also in there. And that is where we did see the chiefs and the different officers, because this was an event that attracted a number of clan leaders, clan chiefs, plus also the masses and also the district leaders, not forgetting technocrats and the other organizations only working in the region. In the UNHCR was represented, OPM was also as well represented, plus many others also who came, that is all to be part of the organization in there, because Yumbe district actually hosts a number of non-governmental organizations, and many of them actually turned up for this event to witness what was happening. But I must inform you, this is actually the way to go. We need to make sure that our cultures are preserved. The Lugbara culture also needs to be done, and we also look forward to having very soon the Lugbara Cultural Gala. And that to me would be also really quite interesting, where we will see the Vuras, the Telegos, the Marachas also really coming together to also really make sure that they front themselves as Lubaras. Because this is the way to go, because I believe if Cultural Gala is not done so, and then definitely that would also really be very much not important, because at the end of the day, our cultures are going to be mixed. And today with also the intermarriages we are seeing, then we are at risk of also losing our cultures in there, which may not be right, because what will our children find, and how will they exactly know how our culture was being conducted? That is also where I feel I need to also remind you as the viewer of. But one thing also that came out clearly is the need for a unifying leader, because if I told there's no one unifying leader, then we are going to be seeing this one declaring himself, I'm the leader, the other one also, I'm a leader, the other one, I'm a leader, which may not be right, because all these conflicts at the end of the day also really put the peace of the people at risk in there. And that is where I want to leave that discussion aside with, and now let's look at what's happening in the world of politics. Remember earlier on I told you we are going to be joined by Anguyo Jimmy Baiga in a short while, who will be here to sort of tell us more about the ordinance that is in relation to GBV, and I hope he is on his way. Anytime from now he will be joining us, and we hope we are also going to be doing that discussion with you as the viewer. I hope you will also keep it locked. Let's also have that discussion in there, because GBV remains GBV, and today GBV is actually manifested in several ways. And that's why if you move to the Child and Family Protection Unit, so many cases of GBV are being reported. You move to gender, so many cases are still being reported. You move to the LC offices, still very many cases are being solved by the LC1 chairperson in terms of GBV, that this person is not helping me, this person did this, that time he beat me, he punched me, all these GBV cases, and these are also really where he will be explaining to us what GBV means. And now let's look at what's happening in politics. Bobby Wine says that he is on mission, that is to remove Museveni peacefully, and that is another story that we are seeing on the past morning, as it tells that we are on mission to remove Museveni peacefully. Says Bobby Wine, is another story that we are seeing on the paper this morning, where Opposition National Platform Party leader Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, aka Bobby Wine, has asked the youth to join the struggle to remove the current government from power peacefully, and that's where he is also really saying that he is looking forward to. And Bobby Wine, who was addressing supporters at Nyachibale playground in the stronghold opposition, that's in Rutungiri district, say the mission to end was termed also the bad governance, should not be seen as a one-party struggle in there. And that is one thing also we did say to the voters in there. Bobby Wine hailed Rukunzili district residents for backing opposition figure Dr. Kado Kiza Bestie, challenging locals to continue voicing their dissent, while citing recent Gen Z-led protests that have also really triggered changes in Kenya in there. And that is also really where he did also call upon the youth to also pick a leaf from. And Bobby Wine also had a successful procession through Rukunzili town without also disruption from security officials, before he also really held a talk show on country radio, promising Ugandans also a government that is people-centered in there. And that is one thing we did see happening in Rukunjiri, where Bobby Wine also already was. And remember, Kano Kiza Bestie is solely traversing the country, and I believe the rest of the political party presidents are also doing the same to make sure that their parties are organized. And remember, on the 27th of this month, we are going to be having a massive event that is for the Forum for Democratic Change, which will be going on in Arua City. That is to launch the e-registration for the party members, and that's where we are saying we are yet waiting for that time. And that when the time arrives, definitely we are going to be also be there to also make sure that we also be part of that. And NUPS tour will be in Tungamo, and today, that's today, and before proceeding to Isinjiro, that will be tomorrow. That is for the rally in there, and that means we are going to still follow and what message that he will be delivering. That is in Tungamo to that is already where he will be saying exactly. And Bobby Wine was Museveni's closest competitor, and remember, in 2021 general elections, after obtaining that is the 3.4 million votes against the Ugandan leader, that's of the who obtained 5.85 million votes also really in there. That means he was also really part of that also the elections, and that means that when 2026 comes, we are definitely also going to be following and see how many votes he will be obtaining in there. And then let's leave that aside. Let's go to Rwanda, when the elections, where the elections have been going on, where Museveni says Museveni also congratulated Rwanda president, that is Paul Kagame, on also the election poll win in there. And that's one thing we are seeing, where Rwanda's president Paul Kagame continues to receive congratulatory messages from his African peers on his landslide electoral victory in the just concluded general elections, where President Museveni has now been the recent now to join the rest of William Ruto of Kenya, Samia Suluhu of Tanzania, and Filipe Nyusi of Mozambique, Omari Sissoko Embalo of Guinea-Bissau. We are also really, it becomes among the leaders also to extend their congratulatory messages to the Rwandan president in their upon being voted in there. And president who is also really embarking on his fourth term after over also 99% also gathering, that's over 99% cast, according to also really the partial results released on Monday by the National Electoral Commission. In the President Museveni said, your election also is a testament to trust and the confidence the people of Rwanda have in your leadership in there, and that means already he is also congratulating him for that. And he did take this, that is to Twitter, to also congratulate the counterpart in there, and I really want to say we also want to congratulate still the people of Rwanda, our Rwandan brothers and sisters, because we are in the East African Commission, in the East African region, because when we talk about Rwanda, and then definitely we talk about issues that also continue to affect us all in there. And President Ruto said, on behalf of the people and government of Kenya, I have the pleasure to also really convey warmest congratulations upon your re-election, and also where you are going to be serving for the 4th time as President of Rwanda. We celebrate with you the sovereign choice also of the people of Rwanda, and I wish you success in your leadership in there. And that means we are going to be seeing what is happening in Rwanda, and that's solely where we cannot be able to solely leave what's happening in Rwanda to Rwandans alone, because at the end of the day, we are still part of what we call the East African region, where we also fronting to also make sure we have a strong and one unifying leader with one currency, with one boundary, where I will be not required to also carry a passport if at all I just want to cross Rwanda, and which is already happening, where you are required to carry some documents. It could be a national ID, where you need to also pass through the right channel. That's also through the immigration office, and also make sure that your details are known in there. And the ruling coalition, RPF in Kontontanyo, had secured that 62.67% of the seats in the Chamber of Deputies, according to the results released by NEC. That is Chair, that's Oda Gasinzigwa in there. And that's one thing we did see happening in Rwanda. And the tallying of the presidential and parliamentary votes is ongoing, and the NEC is expected to announce the provisional results by July 20th, and the final results will come out by also July 27th. In the meanwhile, President Kagame's two competitors, Frank Habineza of the Democratic Green Party and Independence, also candidate Philippe Mbaimana, have already conceded defeat in that. The president said on Monday that they would hit the ground also running in there. The president said that, and that's also something we did see happening in that. I really feel and we need to also really talk about that, because if at all we don't talk about that, then definitely we are going to be lagging behind. And still talk about women today. We are also seeing reports of women being marginalized in the media, and that's also really according to also the report we are seeing. And that is also really in terms of them undertaking their roles. And now a groundbreaking also study has revealed that the stark reality of women's representation of East Africa's newsrooms, and that's also really we did see where the research was conducted by Graduate School of Media and Communication at Khan University. The comprehensive report also shows that women also really are not on the verge, and that's really where the stories are being termed as hard stories. But who exactly is supposed to do that? And that's also really where we also really going to be considering and also really accepting the research. And that's also really where we are saying today, many women also really, I should say, do not also really want to be a part of also really what we call the riots, and that's where sometimes their stories attempt to be what we call hard news. And we shall be talking more about that in the next half of the first hour in there. But for now, let's run in for yet another short commercial break, the first one for the show, and we are going to be joined later on by Anguyo Jimmy Baiga, the head of gender, that is at Western Regional Police Station in there, and who will be telling us more details to what we call the GBV ordinance that is being developed. But now the question I'm asking myself, we are in the 21st century. Do we need an ordinance really to talk about GBV, to also deal with GBV? Because at this time I would think that many people are now in the know of what exactly GBV is all about. So many could not be able to engage in that activity in there. But for now, allow me running for yet another short commercial break, and when I bounce back, we shall be doing more discussions with you. Stay locked.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
cameras. Check. Lights. Check. Sound. Check. Judges. Check. Action. Get ready for the Miss Uganda Grand Finale live at 8 p.m. on 3rd August 2024. 28 finalists in boot camp. One crown. Who will be the next Miss Uganda? Follow the beautiful journey to the final on Makula Chika, exclusively on Star Times every Friday and Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sponsored by VNA, LMZ, Comform, Nigerian Hotel, Kira Motors, Sheraton, Uganda Airlines, and lead sponsors, Grass Textiles and U-Home.
Miss Uganda 2024. True Ugandan beauty.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from the short commercial break. We are back into the discussions, and we are still talking about issues of women being marginalized according to a report that has been released. But how true and how have women maybe been marginalized according to this report? And that's where we're saying women also really are still in the lead. And that's why we're saying when we talk about gender equity, today we are not saying, well, no woman should be marginalized irrespective of what they do in terms of also what they're supposed to do, because definitely that is already where we're saying people must also be treated equally. And out of 1,256 news stories examined, Kenya had the highest percentage, that's of 41% of articles mentioning women in titles, followed by Uganda, who had 30%, and Tanzania 29%, and coverage was limited with women featured. Only that's at 52%, or that's of days in Kenya, and 24% in both Uganda and Tanzania during the study period in there, which included 16 days of activism that is against gender-based violence. But how do we make sure that such activities do not go on? Because we need to make sure that issues of women are actually given keen interest, and also really make sure that also really these matters does not also really go on as said in there, because we need to make sure that women are also really now there to make sure that their rights are also not violated in there. And that is where we're saying people also really must make sure that their issues are not also really being first of all not being respected. We need to make sure that each and everybody's rights are being respected and also really in there, because we do not want to see anybody, anybody also really be left out in there, because definitely that is also really something which we wouldn't also really be right. But how do you make sure these matters go on? You as the viewer definitely can also really support, promote that women equity, because we need to ensure that there's equity of gender, that is for both women and also really men in there, because we do not want to see nobody also really out in there still wondering and also lacking what to do. Maybe also whose rights are being violated, because we do not want to see anybody's right, first of all, being vandalized in there. And that's one thing also we need to also look into as we get to move on with the show. And this is the KOKOLIRIKO live show, as we are yet going with you up to the hour of 9 o'clock. And remember, so many issues continue to happen, and I really want to say there's a lot that also which we are going to be also unfolding on the show. And remember, that is already something where we are going to be also doing that discussions with. And now a Turkish national has been fined, that is Ugandan shillings 200 million, for dumping also really soil into what we call also really one of the wetlands in there. But really, how do you dump maram in a wetland yet you know our laws do not permit you to also really settle in the wetlands? And this is where now I believe justice finally has been also really given, because recently we did see our own Ugandan people being also really evicted out of the one of the wetlands where also really many people had also really settled in there. But now many people also really expressed dismay about the way government also really conducted the evictions in there, with many saying the activity was conducted also really without also really proper consent of them also in there, because this is the ancestral land. And when the activity was being conducted, many of them actually also really lost what we call their land, also really the ancestral land in there, because others also felt that this activity was also conducted with a lot of discrimination in there. And that is now where I believe they could also now be excited, because this man also really is supposed to be paying 200 million, or else risk also really being arrested in there and deported at will. And that's one thing also really which I feel which we must also really talk about in there. And I feel at the end of the day which we need to also really understand that these also activities are very wrong. As a national, why do you come and settle in a wetland yet you know our Ugandan laws does not also really allow people to settle on the wetlands? And that's where also really where I really feel I need to also remind you of as the viewer, because at the end of the day, if at all we are not also talking about that, then definitely that would also really be quite bad and unfortunate for us. And I feel at the end of the day that is one thing that is going to make us lag behind, and which would also not bring about development which we want in there, because at the end of the day, these nations who come as investors would not want to see them also really settling on the wetlands, would not want to see them also really do a lot of bad activities on our land and our ancestral land, which also really God gave us in there. Because if at all they're going to do that, then definitely we are going to be seeing our environment also really being affected. And that is where many people are now asking for government to also tighten the laws. And that is also really on what we call the wetland settlement in there. And I feel that is one thing also really which would be great for us to also really understand in there. Because if at all we're not doing that, then definitely many people are going to be lagging behind in that. I feel that is one thing also really which we need also to talk about as we get to move on with the show. Let's leave that aside. Environmental activists also sue police for rights violations. That is another story that we are seeing on the paper this morning, where a number of 8 environmental activists have filed a lawsuit that's against 10 officers at the Uganda Police Force in the High Court Authority of Uganda, alleging human rights violations, including that's illegal arrests and detention authority, which have also been termed as illegal in there. And the activists are taking legal action are Bob Barige, Alphonse Nkurinziza, Vincent Lubega Nsamba, Gerald Wanani, David Musiri, Ivan and Elvis Sanya Ivan, not forgetting Son Devin Debo and Eric Sekandi, who have also already taken the Uganda police, and where they have also already termed and also identified some officers whom they are taking to court over violations of rights also in there. And that's where we did see, according to their lawyer, Mr. Anthony Odur, the activists also already are among more than 192 human rights defenders, also already including youth, students, and civil society groups who have faced what we call various violations, advocating for human rights and environmental rights in there. And that's one thing, reason, and also already for them to also already make sure that they drag the police officers to court in there. And how will they get justice? Is another thing that's already we are interested in, and we need to find out as we get to move on with the show. The officers also already being sued include us Alex Nsenge, Joseph Okoth, and Martin Okoyo, Onesimus Masiko, Joseph Abwire, Job Wandera Abwire, and David Nahamia, Okelo Patrick Opio, and Alex also already in there, who have also really being taken to court in there, and this is according to their leader, that's Mr. Udur. In there, the victims also and other human rights defenders blame the police for violating their rights to assemble and demonstrate also peacefully, as stated also, which is also confined within the laws in there. And that's where they are also expressing their concerns. And now the victims cited several instances of alleged illegal arrests and detention solely during the peaceful protests in there. And they cited the October 5th of 2022, where over 9 university and graduates, and where over nine university students and youths were also arrested and detained for 6 days during a peaceful march that is the European Union offices in Kampala. And they talk about the same on December 9th, where 3 ECOP activists were arrested and also detained for peaceful protesting against human rights violations. And on January 24th of last year, we did see human rights also activists were illegally arrested and detained also really for over 48 hours without also really protesting over police impunity in there. And on September 15th of 2023, 4 human rights defenders were arrested during peaceful march. That is to Parliament, and that is where they also stated that they are based on. And on November 20th of 2003, 6 human rights activists were also already arrested for protesting against Chinese government funding, that's the oil activities, and they did go on to also already cite on November 24th of 2023, where 7 youths already were arrested, and also on 15th of December, they also did mention where 15 students were detained for protesting against police for interference, that's with civil society activities. Meanwhile, on 26th of 2024, that the human rights activists were also already arrested while peacefully also protesting at the Chinese embassy against climate change impact in Uganda. And finally, these people are now also really, through their lawyers, also representing the activists, are seeking damages of over 100 million each. That's only for the victims who were also really, harmed in those operations in there. And that's where they also did stage their reasons for these activities. And I really feel, as the viewer, you also really have the right. Is it right for them to take police to court? And do you think they will get justice? Therefore, that remains your opinion, and we also do not take it for granted. I really want to say we need to make sure we live in a society at least where there's no human rights violations, because if at all our rights are being violated, and then definitely we may not also really realize where we are heading to, because as Uganda, we are looking also to reaching where we want to reach. And that is where apparently we are saying we need to make sure that human rights violations are also really done, because our rights also need to be respected. But how are these rights going to be respected is also really where I need to ask you as the viewer. We need to make sure if at all we are going to be conducting these peaceful protests, first of all, we need to inform the police. We need to let our leaders be in the know of what we are going to be doing, and also just emerging on the streets by our own, where we end up being tear gassed. And that's where also really I feel we need to also really talk about in there, because if at all we not talk about it, then definitely our people who are the young ones also really still will be able to also really go on and be affected by the same issue, which may not also really be right for us in there. And that is one thing also really I feel we need to also talk about as we get to move on with the show. And that is one thing as the viewer also really, if at all you have anything you need to put forward, then definitely that is also really where we are going to be also really welcoming your opinion on. And that's one thing also really we need to leave that discussion aside with, and that's where let's now head into where other issues also really continue to happen on the story is in here. And 2 remanded over terrorism. Child trafficking is another story that we are seeing on the paper this morning, where I really feel we need to let you know of also already in the paper this morning, where 2 people have been remanded to Luzira prison over accusations of terrorism and aggravated trafficking in children. And on Tuesday, 26th of this year, we did see 26-year-old businessman Sharif Sen Kabira, a 30-year-old Pascal also Tembo appeared in the magistrate court at Buganda Road over charges of also what we call aggravated trafficking in children, rendering support to what we call the ADF, and other cases where he was already arrested in there. But really, how do we make sure these people continue to live in our societies without us realizing why they have been there? And the charges are contrary to the Anti-Terrorism Act and Prevention of Trafficking in Persons Act, which also really, he was also really arrested for in there. And that is one thing also really which I really feel I need to let you know of. And that is one thing you can also really share your opinion with us as the viewer, if at all these also people are still living in society. And how can we be able to identify that this is a human trafficker? Because somebody out there may not be able to identify these unscrupulous persons and thinking that these people are not within our societies. And how do we make sure we deal with them as the viewer? You can also share your opinion with us on our comment section. For those of you watching us via YouTube, you can drop the comment in there. For those of you also really watching us via Facebook as well, also really you can take advantage of the comment section and drop your comment in there, and which we shall be able to go through later on. But for now, we are still continuing with also the other stories in here, and I will be checking through your comment later on. And remember, later on in the second hour, we hope to be joined by Anguio Jimmy Baiga, the head of gender, that is for Western Region Police, also where he will be telling us about the ordinance that is being developed in there, and really feel we need to make sure that people understand. But now the question I'm still asking myself once again is that do we need ordinance in this generation to also deal with GBV? Because GBV continues to remain, and that's also where we are saying that is very, very much dangerous. And I feel we need to also keep the viewer also out there to also understand what GBV is all about and what this law will mean. And he will be also here to tell us more about that. And now police block meeting discussing pending evictions in Kira is another story that we are seeing on the papers morning, where tear gas was fired as military and police personnel dispersed meeting organized by political leaders in Kasokoso in Kiramu municipality, Wakiso district on Wednesday, where the meeting, which was convened by Kampala Lord Mayor Arias Lukwago, MPs and other local leaders, aiming to address the concerns of residents amidst also the ongoing crackdown by National Environment Authority also on dwellers in areas also which have been termed and also designated as wetlands in there. And remember, rural city leaders have also often also been extending the same message of asking people to move away from the wetlands in there. But really, how shall we also be able to identify that the area I'm in is a wetland? That's where we're saying, before buying land, seeking for recognition of the physical planners is always key before buying land. And that's where we are today. We are looking at the city center, where also a lot of challenges already are coming up, where some people had actually refused the city because of also in such issues. But now we cannot be able to run away from the city. But we are saying, before buying land, we must cherish the issue of physical planning, so that the land is examined, whether it is in a wetland, whether it's not in a road, maybe road is not a road reserve, so that if at all you buy the land, you're buying genuine land, other than buying land and so be duped after now establishing structures, and then after very few years you get evicted, which also brings a lot of misery and a lot of pain in the faces of these people who are going to be evicted in there. But we are saying NEMA needs to work hand in hand with these people who are in the wetlands, so that if at all they are evicted. To me, really, I feel they need to be given something small before they move away from here. But sometimes we see them moving away from just without anything. And recently we did see that happening in Kampala, also in Nansana, which was something we did see going on, where some people were evicted, and we saw the pain and misery in the faces of these mothers, in the faces of these women and the children, plus the men. Definitely, we did see people wailing, which wasn't something right, and that's where we're saying, for those who are settling in the wetlands, are still within West Nile, within a rural city, you need to start making sure that you identify areas where you are going to be relocating, and so that certainly when the time comes for evictions, you're not very much affected by that in there. And now security forces condoned the venue and arrested Mr. Ibrahim Semojunganda, the Kiramu municipality MP, taking him to his home in there, and that's also sparking running battles and eventual usage of tear gas to disperse the angry attendees in there. And that is one thing we did see happening, where Mr. Semojunganda also said they had agreed to have one joint meeting for all that is already where the affected people in the area, but they were surprised to reach the venue when security had already beefed up the area in there. But really, how do you make sure these people's rights are not respected? Because it is a constitutional mandate. Did they also really, first of all, do it illegally? Is another thing also we need to understand. Didn't they ask for police opinion and also police permission to go on with this engagement in there? Is another thing that we need to address ourselves in, because we may be talking about this activity being illegal, yet they had the right channels, and they use the right channels to make sure that they also really get the right permission. Mr. Ronda Balimwezo Nsubuga, the Nakawa East Member Parliament, also criticized the skill intervention and stressing the need for clear demarcation between restoration efforts in wetlands and also development plans for low-lying areas in there. And similar, also we did see instances have occurred recently, including the leader of Boston who was dispersed facing tear gas and bullets when he attempted to visit the people of Lubiji wetlands also in there. And that is where we did see misery, and I really want to say we do not want to see such activities going on without also really, first of all, concerning the people, and also really maybe consulting the people of where they need to be settling. And I really want to say, if at all government was able to also remove away these people from the wetlands and also really gazette other areas where they will be able to settle in, that will be quite well. And during the gatherings, Mr. Lukwago challenged NEMA's authority, alleging illegal operations already and calling for establishment of District Environment Committee to manage environmental issues in there. And I really feel for us to have the environment department in all the local governments will be quite well, because this would also help educate and sensitize the masses about also really establishing people and also establishing their homes on the wetlands. And I really feel that is actually the way to go if at all we are going to be also really attaining what we want to attain. Because if at all we continue to also really set on these wetlands without also really understanding and taking what it means, then definitely that would be quite well. And unfortunately for us, and I really want to say that wouldn't be quite well. And now let's leave that aside. Over 5,000 Kasese flood victims asked to leave IDP camps. In another story we are seeing on the papers this morning, where The Kasese district leadership has asked more than 5,000 people who are also living in school compounds and churches are being also displaced by floods last year to return to their homes before the end of the month. Another misery also onto the faces of these people who may have gotten used to being also really in the camps within the school centers in there, but now they have been asked to relocate back to their homes. And what does this mean? And the affected persons, the affected individuals live in 15 makeshift shelters spread across the 9 sub-counties of Bwesumbu, Buhurira, Maliba, Charumba, Kabingo, Chiondo, Charumba, and also what we call Ibanda, Chiancha Town Council in there. Now they have been requested to go back. But what will this imply? And the district chairperson, Mr. Elifaz Muhindi Bukombi, explained that also really the conditions in the camps are deteriorating rapidly, and the people also really remain there. They are at risk of also contracting disease, and that is the reason as to why they are now asking them to relocate back. And what is government going to do to make sure these people relocate safely is another thing also we need to understand. Mr. Muhindi said the hygiene in the camps is poor since they can be overcrowded in them. The publication also understands that the decision was taken after some of the NGOs that have been supporting also the flood victims with relief items say they are no longer able to do so, and this remains also the responsibility of providing relief support will now come upon, also fall upon the district. And could it be that the district is running away from responsibility? Definitely, I don't know. But according to Muhindi, 21 out of the 144 sub-counties in Kasese have also been declared disaster-prone areas, posing a threat that is to the population in there. And he explained that since 2020, floods that hit the district, and the government also is yet to honor its pledge, that is to relocating also and settling the flood victims, as this has not yet also landed also in relation to what we are discussing in there. And however, many of the affected residents say they are nowhere to go because the homes were also destroyed by floods, and the homes were initially they were coming from also are no longer there. But now could government maybe give them relief items and also make sure they return back, because we have a whole ministry of disaster and preparedness which is only there to make sure they handle issues of disaster. And I really want to say, could this also department also extend a hand to the people who have also been affected by the virus in there? And I really feel this would also work out in there. Ms. Edirona Ihutungu, who currently resides also in a makeshift provided also by the Uganda Red Cross at Kasagari SDA Primary School in Bwesumbu sub-county, said life inside camp is becoming unbearable, and meaning that these people also already feel they need to go back. But how do you make sure that they return back safely without also being affected in there, because their homes are no longer there? This is where I also want to ask myself now. However, she said this has also they have nowhere to relocate because their homes also buried by mudslides. And how can we make sure they go back? And are they safe in terms of going back? And what are the stranded people saying? And now all the flood victims have been surviving on relief food items from non-governmental organizations within the place. But now this can no longer also really help. And Reverend Father Anyesio Mbusa, the executive director of Caritas Kasese, said they no longer have the financial capacity to support the victims already with the relief items. And however, Action Against Hunger, another non-governmental organization, initiated a relief campaign last week to assist 8,000 individuals affected by floods also until December. In the shelters, also many floods also victims have found temporary shelter in also various camps, including also primary schools, Buito, Kalonge, primary schools in Buito, Kalonge, and also the Kagema Anglican Church of Uganda, Nyakubu SDA Primary School, and many others where they have been settling in there. Now they have been required to go back. Are they right? Is it the right time for them to go back? Is also really another question we should be asking ourselves this morning, because we may be talking about what's happening in Kasese, thinking it's also really a matter of what we call those people who live in there. But really, how do you make sure that this matter does not go on? It may not be also the issue of the Bakonjo alone, because somebody may be saying this is a matter of the Bakonjo. And for us, we are maybe, look at us, we are Kakuas, we are Lurus, we are it's not affecting us. But we are saying we are Ugandans. What happens to our brother in Kasese also really should actually bring misery to us also in here, because we are still the same people, we are of the same nations, and also the same country. And that's where we're saying, as Pan-Africanists and as Ugandan also patriots, definitely what happens in there is also really affecting us also in here. And that's where we are saying we need to make sure that we understand what happens in there also does not happen to us in here. And let's leave that aside. Now let's finalize the stories with where locals fight for soil over Chijabijo wetland. Is another story still where we are still looking at as residents of Kigabijo village in Wakiso district have accused encroachers of fencing off a 21-kilometer stretch of a wetland in the area, and the wetland also under contention is also Lejali buffer zone, which is a 19-kilometer stretch from Kampala capital city that is off the Gayaza Road in there. And the locals from Kijabijo village under their umbrella body, the Kijabijo wetland also protectors also in there have now concealed the area and also protested against that area in there. And the locals from that area also have said called the media for support in also making sure, naming and shaming those the encroachers in there. And that means we need to make sure that there's no person with a long hand who is going to be settling on the wetlands. And how do you make sure this does go on? Because sometimes we see the vulnerable being evicted, yet some also people who call themselves the big slots or the big guns also continue to settle peacefully on these wetlands. And this is where some people have also often raised concerns. And during the Lubiji evictions, this also cited a number of places which also remained unevicted, despite also being still within the wetlands in that, which wasn't right. And this actually made some people feel the laws are being practiced indiscriminately, and which may not be the case, but we are saying people must make sure they do not settle on the wetlands, because settle on the wetlands is really something wrong, which we must also not promote. In the February 20th and in the February 29th letter, written also by the Ministry of Water and Environment, to assist also tasked the government to urgently also assist the community to reclaim and restore the wetland in there, because to reclaim the wetland is actually going to promote, first of all, the environment protection we are talking about. And locals allege that some of the accused, Mr. Mustafa Mtiaba, has reclaimed a section of the wetland by burning papyrus rides and using also an excavator to also refill it with the soil in there. That means he is actually still settling on the wetland. But Mr. Mtiaba last month told also Monitor that he acquired the land in 2015 and also is also since turned into an ecological area by planting trees in there. And he also blamed the locals for teaming up to fight for this development. And that means if the locals are not appreciative of what is happening, then the government and the leaders sort of within the place need to come and investigate what is happening in there. And when we inquired of where the land also had the title for the land, he said the matter is before court, and that is also something we see in there. And that's where we are saying court also need to make sure that the process is not delaying, because if at all the process is delayed, then definitely sometimes we see the people going on with the activities which may not be right, because somebody will tell you, I have this matter in court, and they continue to go with the activities which may be very, very much bad. In the Mr. Serugo claims locals that also reported the alleged encroachers to Kira division officers, but nothing was done to the encroachers in there. But how do you make sure the encroachers do not settle also really on the wetlands also really in there is something also really we need to understand always, because if at all we are talking about encroachment, today encroachment means encroachment where nothing sometimes it's being done to the encroachers, which I really feel is something where we need to understand as people of Uganda, because we need to restore our wetlands. And that is where today the body that is mandated to protect the wetlands, which is known as National Environment Authority, has come out clearly to make sure also the wetland reclamation and also the conservation is something where they have given keen attention to. And that's where today we are seeing also the ongoing evictions of the masses settling within the wetlands. And this is a countrywide campaign which we did see also starting in the central Uganda, and I believe this is going to be moving on to the other parts of the country. And that's why we're saying the leaders, the RDCs, also need to join hands to make sure the locals need to understand that settling on the wetlands is not good. And that's why we're summarizing the discussions in the first hour. And the second hour, we are going to still bring you lots more also to make sure that you understand of what's happening. And that's where we are going to be discussing a lot of issues. But for now, we are going to be running for a short commercial break. And my name is Farish Majid. Stay tuned as we bounce back shortly.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Check lights. Check sound. Check judges. Check action. Get ready for the Miss Uganda Grand Finale live at 8 p.m. on 3rd August 2024. 28 finalists in boot camp. One crown. Who will be the next Miss Uganda? Follow the beautiful journey to the final on Makulachika exclusively on Star Times every Friday and Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sponsored by VNA, LMZ, Comfort, Nanjing Hotel, Kira Motors, Sheraton, Uganda Airlines, and lead sponsors, Dress Textiles and You Home.
Miss Uganda 2024. True Ugandan beauty.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Cameras, check. Lights, check. Sound, check. Judges, check. Action. Get ready for the Miss Uganda Grand Finale live at 8 p.m. on 3rd August 2024. 28 finalists in boot camp. One crown. Who will be the next Miss Uganda? Follow the beautiful journey to the final on Makulachika exclusively on Star Times every Friday and Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sponsored by VNA, LMZ, Comfort, Nanjing Hotel, Kira Motors, Sheraton, Uganda Airlines, and lead sponsors, Dress Textiles and You Home.
Miss Uganda 2024. True Ugandan beauty.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
cameras, check lights, check sound, check judges, check action. Get ready for the Miss Uganda Grand Finale live at 8 p.m. on 3rd August 2024. 28 finalists in boot camp. One crown. Who will be the next Miss Uganda? Follow the beautiful journey to the final on Makula Chika exclusively on Star Times every Friday and Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sponsored by VNA, LMZ, Comfort, Nanjing Hotel, Kira Motors, Sheraton, Uganda Airlines, and lead sponsors, Grace Textiles and U-Home.
Miss Uganda 2024. True Ugandan beauty.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from the short commercial break. We are back into our second hour of the show, and now we want to look at if Arua City is ready for the GBV ordinance that is yet in draft form. And now we have been joined by Anguyo Jimmy Baiga. He is the head of gender for West Nile Regional at the Uganda Police Force in there, and he will be telling us more about more details about the GBV ordinance that is yet in draft form, where it is still at the stage of consultations. But nonetheless, first thing first, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Greta, and thank you so much, the viewers of West Nile Television. Okay,
I find now you are conducting what we call consultations of all the stakeholders in relation to the GBV ordinance that is also going to undergo a lot of stages before it is approved. And now the question I'm asking myself is that we in the 21st century, do we need such an ordinance? Or the Ugandans or the people of the city ought to have understood that we need to live peacefully amidst all the campaigns. Are the campaigns not working? Should I say it is now the right time for us to have this law once approved?
Yes, definitely it's true. It's high time we had this law, because if you look at the statistics of gender-based violence, they are so escalating, and therefore there is a need to have a concerted effort to curb down this vice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe first paint us an image of that draft form. What stages, maybe where has it reached? Because it is yet in draft form, meaning at the end of the day, before it is approved. So many stages need to be also looked into. Where has it reached, maybe with the stages of also undergoing before final approval in there?
One, we began by drafting the local action plan, and in the local action plan, GBV was part of our idea. And I want to thank Siha for having financed this drafting. This is the first stage. It has been drafted. And then from here, actually after drafting it, the stakeholders were consulted, I think last week, whereby everyone in Arua City where this ordinance is going to apply were invited for the consultative meeting, in which amendments were made, and after here it will be sent to the line ministry, and in this case it is in this case for Arua City it will be the local government, a ministry. Then from there it will go to the auditor, to go to the Attorney General's office for approval, and thereafter it will be gazetted. Now when it is gazetted, after 7 days it will be operational. It should be noted that this ordinance will only apply to Arua City Council. That means if you are not within the scope of Arua City Council, then it will not impact on you, or it will not be operation in your area. So in this case we have Ivo Division and Central Division, and that's where this act is going to be operational. And this ordinance is made under Section 39 of the Local Government Act, Cap 243. Yeah.
Okay. Now somebody may be interested in understanding how overwhelming are the cases of GBV, because we have had several campaigns of GBV. And when we talk about the 16 days of activism, this is actually to make sure that people understand and not also really continue to take up the issues of GBV. How overwhelming is Arua City with the cases now that we need this law?
Yeah, actually let me give the statistics of last year. Last year from January to December, we had the 418 cases of domestic violence. We had 112 cases of defilement. We had 10 of rape. We had 3 of indecent assault. We had 4 of aggravated domestic violence, which led to death. And we had also some cases of indecent assault.
Okay.
However, I should be clear that when we talk of gender-based violence, people tend to focus their minds around defilement and rape, but they forget about domestic violence, they forget about the indecent assault, they forget about the aggravated domestic violence.
That brings me to the question, what exactly is what we call GBV? What is GBV? Maybe for somebody out there who does not understand GBV, because somebody may be thinking about GBV from the perspective of domestic violence or beating only. But what is GBV? Because I do understand there are several forms of GBV being manifested out there.
Yeah, GBV is a harm that is inflicted on a person just because of their sex. Okay? Now, GBV takes various forms. Can be physical, it can be psychological or emotional, it can be economic violence, it can be indecent assault, it can be sexual harassment. This all forms what we call gender-based violence. Now, when we talk of physical violence, we mean that violence which involves physical confrontation, like me and you, we exchange blows. That is physical violence. We have got sexual violence, which is in the name of rape, in the name of defilement, in the name of sexual harassment, in the name of indecent assault. These things happen in our communities, in our families, and in our institutions. Okay? Now, we also have got economic violence. You are very aware of our histories. You're aware of our history as Arua City. You find the men like sitting around the roadsides. They make this what we call kurusis of theirs made of rokoba. They sit there eating marungi, doing a lot of nothing. Now it is the women who go hustling. The women go looking for food. They are actually, the women have become the heads of families in West Nile. The men have forgotten their roles. Actually, wherever I'm talking to the men, I always tell them, our work is just we are just fathers by name. We're not fathers by action. Even they don't know how their children are sleeping. They don't know how they are feeding. They don't know how they are dressing. But they want to eat. Now these women, after hustling, you see them selling avocados on the streets, selling tomatoes, selling other small items, moving on the streets, you see them. And they come and buy food. And the man who has been sitting at the roadside comes and says, I want food. When the woman doesn't provide the food, what's the next thing? Is the slap. The next thing is fighting or quarreling. This even affects the children.
Okay.
They may go to school, they may not even concentrate. And when it comes to fighting, they can be traumatized. See? Trauma means someone getting psychological discomfort from an event. It can be acute trauma, that a trauma that acted maybe happened once. It can be chronic. Chronic means it is repeatedly. For example, a man and a woman fighting every day, it becomes chronic trauma. It can be complex. It can be secondary. Now, secondary affects you and me, the workers. Like for me, I work with trauma-related cases, and as I handle these cases, I also get traumatized. Now, when I get traumatized, I may develop what's called transfer effect. I am traumatized by my boss from work. I go and traumatize my wife. My wife traumatizes the firstborn. The firstborn traumatizes the secondborn. Okay. The thirdborn is traumatized by secondborn. And the lastborn traumatizes the maid. So the maid traumatizes the dog. The dog traumatizes the pussycat. It's a continuous line. So that's secondary trauma. So we have to avoid these things. And these things are coming out of gender-based violence. And therefore there is a need to have an ordinance to curb this, especially for those perpetrators. 99% of these are men. Yes, I must be clear to you. In last year's statistics of GBV, especially domestic violence, yes, 418 in total domestic violence in Arua City. But out of these, 34 were reported by men. Men are also being beaten by their wives. Are you aware of that?
But what does the society say about that? Because usually our society put us ahead of the women. And how do you even start reporting that I was beaten by a man?
Yeah, by law. When your rights are violated, you must report for purpose of statistics to be captured for planning. Okay. A man came from Logiri, phoned me in office. He's a captain. Okay? A UPDF officer. He told me, Afande, I'm telling you, my wife has beaten me. But don't think I'm alone. We are very many. We are very many. Now that means very many men have been beaten by their wives and they cannot report. Because if they report, they feel the women have now become on top of them.
But the community is also going to laugh at them.
It's going to laugh like, what is your role? It is shameful. So because very many men are dying silently there. For me, for example, if my wife beats me, because I'm informed, I will come and report the matter to police. But some people will not report this matter. Actually, when I came here in 2018, many were actually not reporting any cases of being attacked by their wives in their homes. Because of Aruba, because of... Even women were not reporting. Actually, when I came to Arua City, by then it was Arua municipality, out of 30 cases reported in a month, you may find none of them was reported by a man. All of them were reported by women. And we realized that out of these 30 cases reported, could constitute only 10% of the cases reported. Now, where do you think the other cases were? They were being kept at home. People were not reporting them. And for this, men continued to batter the women. And if these women report this matter to police, they say, it's a reportable. Aruba did it. Now, that actually, now you ask yourself, why do you think they demand for a sheep? They demand for a meat. Meat, that is greed. Meat. Why don't you bring funyo, you just share and you eat together, but they want meat, something with the blood. That is greed to me. And also to make women, because women are economically not empowered, though they are now being empowered, they could not afford this cow, they could not afford this goat to cleanse the so-called Aruba. But I'm happy we are moving with the Lubarakari and other cultural institutions and religious leaders who have been sensitizing people, who have been dialoguing with them. At one time, I remember Lubarakari asked the people, what is the color of Aruba? And nobody could even explain the color of Aruba.
Okay.
Then he asked them, he told them, Aruba is not there. Aruba is just a myth. In English, a myth is something that doesn't exist. If you believed in it, yes, it will act upon you. But if you never believed like me, it happened to our home in Kampala. Someone brought a big tortoise and put it, upside down. If a tortoise put it upside down, it will struggle to turn back to its belly. Okay, it will struggle. So they put the tortoise lying upside down. It was struggling to come to its position.
That brings me to the question: we have so many laws that have been in place. Look at the constitution itself. It talks about also people's rights not being violated. We have what we call other so many laws that are yet there. Do we really need, as a Arua city, to have an extraordinary ordinance for us to deal with? Maybe could it be that the punishments also under those laws are not enough? Why do we need this ordinance at this time? Because somebody may be interested in understanding that we have the laws, the mother laws, which are already in place, which are already existing. And now we need to also add with the GBV. Maybe should we say that Arua city's cases of GBV now are very much overwhelming?
I must tell you that Arua city cases of GBV are overwhelming. And let me also tell the public that West Nile were number 2 in Uganda in GBV cases. That explains the reason why we need this ordinance. Okay? And these things are increasing. Arua being a new city, very people are coming into Arua. And this vice is likely to increase, and it's already increasing, by the way. So we need this ordinance. Yes, we have the supreme law of the country. That's the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. It prescribes the punishments for GBV perpetrators. Yes. But the process of executing these laws is a bit long and laborious. So we need our ordinance as Arua city. But then let me tell you, are you aware that they've opened a city hall now?
I was actually coming to that.
Exactly. So that we arrest you in the morning, you're investigated by 2, you're paid in court by 4, you're in yellow. Yes, we need this expert, very express punishment. By the way, the punishments under this ordinance are a bit. They are not so that like the supreme law. But remember, if someone defiled, this court may not handle this case. We may use the supreme law. For example, the ordinance says if someone committed this offense, if someone abetted, if someone aided in committing this offense, you are subject to 2 currency points as a fine or 6 years imprisonment. Yeah. Yes, this money looks very small, I know. 2 currency points. A currency point is 20,000 shillings. So 2 currency points, that's 40,000 shillings. Now, there is also imprisonment of 6 months or both. Okay? Now,
which are all less sentences.
Which are less sentences. Now, we cannot subject someone to this court, someone who has defiled. Because it is cheap to pay 40,000. It is very easy to sleep in prison for 6 months. So if someone committed a defilement case or a rape case or a murder case, we shall use the supreme law under the Penal Code Act. So for these minor offenses like maybe abating, aiding, you see, someone can aid offense to be committed. For example, I can give you my bicycle to go and indecently assault a woman. I've aided you to commit that offense. Therefore, I'm liable to punishment under this act of currency point of 2 currency points and the 6 months imprisonment or both. Don't you think it's very important?
It's very important. So I think
Yes.
there's need for us to also really make sure that there is also really changes in our laws, because recently Arua City was also really developing what we call the solid waste management ordinance. A reason also really was also that the punishments under the mother laws are still not very much enough, because somebody may be charged 40,000 and the person feels very free to also really give the money, because next time he knows I will still commit the crime and pay this lesser money. And now we want the ordinance also really with the bigger punishments to also really make sure that we also really have these laws and also really governance also really improves. But now the question I'm still asking myself is, we are in the 21st century and we are now into a city. Why must we be talking about ordinances on GBV? Where is the challenge, and could it be mindset?
One, we want a nice, mighty, beautiful Arua city. And everybody must work for this. Okay? Are you aware that according to the recent census, Arua is the second largest city in Uganda after KCCA? 2, Arua is having over 380 million people next to Kampala City Council. So for this, being a mighty city, we need these ordinances to check ourselves to maintain this status quo. We need these ordinances because being a city, we need to develop our city. And if we keep people committing these crimes of GBV, when shall we develop our city? Remember, there is what we call decentralization policy. Everyone for himself, God for us all. So as government cannot do this, all these developments for us. So it's us, the people of Arua city, to come down with our rules, our ordinances, to make sure our people work and we develop our city. Therefore, it accounts why we need this ordinance in Arua city.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how can we make sure that before we bring in the law in place, people have mindset change so that they can be able to desist from tendencies of mind, or what we call gender-based violence? Because if you move to these officers which are responsible for handling what we call domestic violence and other forms of GBV cases, you realize that the case is overwhelming. Each and every day, at least, there is a case being reported, be it by a man or a woman, in the city here.
Yeah, partly.
What needs to be done to make sure people do not also engage in GBV? Because we have had several campaigns, the 16 days of activism, people have been onto media, people have been to the community, but nothing is changing. Where is the problem?
Now, I must tell you that people's mindset needs to be changed, and already there. You can see the evidence whereby those days, they would not report cases. But now they are reporting. When I came to Arua, I engaged the cultural leaders, the religious leaders, and all other stakeholders. I engaged them in discussions. What can we do together to change the GBV status of our region? And we continued the campaign on social media, like this one, on radios, community dialogues, and also use what we call comprehensive community policing system. We use a proactive system. A proactive system means we don't wait for the offense to occur, but we prevent it. Okay? We've got what preventive measures. We got right now as I talk, we are doing prevention. We're empowering the people to understand GBV, that it is real in our community, and therefore they should be aware. The mechanism of reporting, the referral pathways, we teach them. If this happens in the village, what do? You should call so and so. We develop a referral pathway system it was developed by SIHA, and strategic initiatives for the women in the Horn of Africa, who are actually supporting us in developing this ordinance. Yeah? So we go and sensitize the people, we talk to them, we educate them on the dangers and the repercussions of this violence. And as I talk now, people are now reporting. People know the referral pathways. It has happened here. Whom should I talk? Even we give our numbers, we popularize our numbers.
Okay, that is where also really we are going to be taking yet another short commercial break, and the call, we will be able to pick that call after the short commercial break. For now, the viewer, we want to take this opportunity now to also thank you and ask you to still stay locked, because we are going to be continuing with that discussion later on. But for now, let's first run in for yet this short commercial breather, and I'm still with Afande and Jimmy Baiga as we bounce back shortly.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
cameras, check lights, check sound, check judges, check action. Get ready for the Miss Uganda Grand Finale live at 8 p.m. on 3rd August 2024. 28 finalists in boot camp. One crown. Who will be the next Miss Uganda? Follow the beautiful journey to the final on Makula Chika exclusively on Star Times every Friday and Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sponsored by VNA, LMZ, Comfort, Nigerian Hotel, Kira Motors, Sheraton, Uganda Airlines, and lead sponsors, Grace Textiles and U Home.
Miss Uganda 2024. True Ugandan beauty.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from that short commercial break. We are back with the discussions in relation to the draft GBV, which is already going to be passed out if at all it undergoes all the stages successfully in there. And now I'm still with Anguyo Jimmy Baiga. He is the head of gender also in Western region, and he will be explaining to us what this ordinance entails and what some of the punishments also will be incorporated in there. And I really want to ask him now, as we bounce back into this in the last half of the discussions, let us know what exactly is into this ordinance. What are we going to be looking out for in this ordinance, and how is it going to be affecting the people who are the perpetrators of GBV? Do we have awards? Do you have punishments?
Yes.
Definitely, we need to understand that.
We have definitely have punishments, because there can not be an ordinance without punishment.
What about rewards to the survivors?
We've said
in terms of compensations, maybe.
That will be determined by the sitting magistrate.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, these punishments were got they got under Section 39 of the Local Government Act, Cap 243. If you look at Local Government Act, Cap 243, it says the punishments of these should not be so like the punishment in the Penal Code Act. Like, if you look at defilement, it is life imprisonment. Okay? But according to this draft, it is saying a fine of 2 currency points or 6 months imprisonment or both. In the consultative meetings, people were asking, how can someone a perpetrator of GBV be sentenced to 6 months of prison or pay a fine of 2 currency points or both? Reason is being these punishments are described were picked from the Local Government Act, Section 39, Cap 243. It doesn't allow the local authorities to give punishments beyond that. However, when we see the punishment is, for example, aggravated, someone has committed aggravated defilement, that person will be charged according to the Penal Code Act, not using this Local Government Act. So that is a grave offense. Capital offenses which are capital in nature this act will never apply on those offenses. Rather, we shall use the supreme law of the country, that's the Penal Code Act, to deal on those perpetrators. But these abaters, these aiders, these people who, by the offense, can be committed by commission and omission. By commission means you participate in committing the offense. Then omission, you simply see someone is committing an offense and you seem not bothered. You have omitted offense. Or you conceal information about GBV with that punishment of 2 currency points, 6 months imprisonment, or both will apply on you. But if it comes to a capital in nature offense, depending on what act will act there. So people were consulted and they gave in their views that the punishments were very minor, but we are doing this in line with the Section 39 of the Local Government Act, Cap 243.
Okay. So basically, is it going to be addressing the rising cases, in your own opinion? Is it the magic bullet to end the GBV in West Nile?
Certainly. I'm very certain. When this ordinance is operationalized, after being gazetted, as I told you, we shall arrest you in the morning. By 12:01, we have done investigations already. By 2, the file goes RSA. It is sanctioned. We simply take you from the office of the RSA. It's just like 10 meters from the courtroom. And you're sentenced. And you go down. And that way, we shall have strongly reduce these cases in our communities.
Okay.
Because you commit offense now in the morning, in the evening, you're in yellow. And even we're even going to request for our own prison. Because I know the capacity of our prison is not enough.
I was actually coming to that.
It's not enough.
I believe the cases are being overwhelming. And them being overwhelming, the prison facilities may not be able to sort of be enough. At the end of the day, we may see negotiations coming up, because usually GBV cases sometimes do not reach court because of family negotiations, which is already allowed by the laws.
Yeah.
And how is that also already fueling the rising cases of GBV also in India? Because when you talk about issues of Aruba, the interference has always been there. And then when there's a case being reported, when there's a case being reported, usually the matter also takes long to sort of go maybe to the final courts of lawyer. What can you say about the chain that is also already being involved in between here, between the families and those who are affected?
Yeah, well, with the family cases, we normally don't rush to courts of law, because when we rush into courts of law, we shall be splitting, we shall be tearing the families. That's why even if the file goes to court, court will ask the parties, are you willing to negotiate? Yes, they will say, yes, we're willing to negotiate. They will give them a chance to go out of court. They discuss, they negotiate. Where possible, the court can even give them a mediator or an arbitrator to go and support them in the discussions or in the negotiations. And when they come with a solution that is convincing both parties, court can decide based on their discussions. It's allowed. That's why you see out of about 400 something plus cases of domestic violence, maybe less than 100 went to court because of that. I want to give you a scenario whereby a brother fought with the younger brother. After fighting, the younger brother actually ended up beating the elder brother more. The elder brother sustained more injuries than the younger brother, though the elder brother started the fight against the younger brother. Now, when the matter came to police, it was investigated. Personally, I advised them, you are brothers, why don't you sit down and agree and forgive each other, and sanity prevails in your home.
Okay, that brings me to now the point. Now, the example you've just given us tells us that GBV may not only be within the families. Neighbors can also be affected by GBV. But in most cases, when you talk about GBV, people think about it being in only one family, between the father and the mother. Let's make us understand what GBV is all about.
As I told you, GBV manifests in families, in in communities, in institutions. When my family is here, when my family is fighting, it's affecting the next family. That's in the community now. It's affecting the neighbor. You find shouting, quarreling, insulting each other. The neighbor who was sleeping will not be sleeping, definitely. He will be affected. That's in the community. At our institutions, when there is GBV, we can have what we call secondary trauma, we transfer it home. It affects our family. So it affects the chain, it affects the whole surrounding. The community, the institution, the family, and all that.
Okay.
That's why, in most cases, I was given the story of this gentleman. So we advised them not to continue with this matter. So the elder brother said, no, my matter must go to court. He said, okay, fine. In order for peace to prevail, let the file go to RSA. It was sanctioned. These were paid in court. When they paid in court, the magistrate, the presiding magistrate told the complainant that this is your brother. The same advice I gave them, why don't you forgive each other? He said, no, I can't forgive my brother. Then they asked him, how many months do you want your brother to be sentenced? He said the brother should be sentenced to 2 years. Magistrate said, okay, I'm sentenced to 2 years in prison. That's 24 months. But before this brother, the complainant reached home, all his houses were touched by the clan members. Why did you take your brother to court? Would you solve this matter at a family level? So you can imagine how it affects the community and the family. So that means these cases, we must handle them technically. Much as we are going to take this to court, we shall have a lot of talking, a lot of guidance, a lot of counseling. Those who listen to us,
we listen.
Those who don't listen to us, they will continue to court.
Okay.
And that's how they will sort themselves from that.
So what finally can community learn and also really maybe be in the know of in this law?
The community has already been consulted. As I told you, all the stakeholders in Hero City were called for consultation, and they embraced the idea because of the escalating numbers of GBV cases in this city. So the community is willing to work. And by the way, without the efforts of the community, this ordinance cannot work. We need a multi-sectoral approach. We need everyone to come on board. The traditional leaders, the cultural leaders, the religious leaders, the elders, the NGOs who are implementing this, the LCs, the family heads, the teachers at school, the head teachers. Everyone must be involved in order to curb this vice. Everyone must understand that this vice can affect us negatively.
Okay.
And everyone must be involved. If you say, leave the implementation of this ordinance to the police, we shall be running a race.
Okay.
We shall be doing nothing.
Okay.
So when we work together as a team, we shall be able to curb this vice. We shall be able to reduce this violence in our homes, in our communities, in our institutions. And when we're gender-free, violence, institution, community, development will prosper.
Okay, that is it in relation to that. And now talking about the GBV as the viewer, what have you gotten and how are you going to be preparing to wait for this GBV ordinance that is being drafted? And I do understand after the draft form, that is when it will be undergoing stages. You didn't tell us the stages.
Yes,
maybe it will,
from the draft, it will go to the line ministry. From the line ministry, it will go to the Attorney General. And there it will be gazetted and it will be in operation.
Okay.
At the moment, we are still at the drafting moment.
Okay, it is still the draft form, meaning implementation is not done, but when it will be finally approved, that is when we are going to be seeing implementation of the law. But we are saying, why must you really be caught up by the law in this era? Because we're in the 21st century where we expect each and everybody to be in a modern era. But mindset still, maybe still that of the 20th century, which is something wrong. But we are saying that shouldn't be the case. We need to make sure that we cherish and live in a rural city that also really is making us, all of us, proud, and which we also need to also really be happy of in there. That's why we're saying with the funding, we need to make sure that when this law comes, you must not be part of the statistics who are going to be caught up, because the statistics will come out and we shall say we did arrest a number of people who are also arrested, who was taken to court over this matter, and so was actually arrested for also this, which will be so embarrassing. I don't know what finally message you have for each and every stakeholder as we await also really for this ordinance that is going to be passed out maybe in a short while. What message do you have for all the stakeholders? Could be the community, the leaders, and everybody.
The message I'm sending to the community is, let's embrace this, let's cherish this, let's implement it together.
Okay.
Because if we don't implement together, we shall only be wasting our time and resources. I always quote one scholar called Zig Ziglar. I like reading literature. He says, if you want to walk very fast, walk alone. If you want to walk very far, walk together. So let's walk together so that we can walk very far, in as far as this ordinance is concerned. Yeah.
And then finally, to somebody out there who is going to through maybe a GBV case, but silently still keeping quiet, I do not want to report, or I do not know where to go to. A message to them.
Please never keep quiet when you're experiencing GBV, because it affects you psychologically, it affects you physically, and even affects you emotionally. It traumatizes you, which can lead to stress, can lead to pressure, and when there's pressure, you develop pressure, you develop stroke, and that will be the end of you.
Okay.
Shout. Our numbers are there. Call us. Call the toll-free number 112. If you don't have airtime on your phone, just dial 112. I'm so and so calling from this area. There is ABCD. Anybody can report. You hear GBV taking place anywhere, you just pick a call, your phone call, regardless of airtime, toll-free number 112, we get you. You call 999, we toll-free, we get you. Even I've got GBV official free toll-free lines. You use them, you call us, we shall be able to reach. Remember, those who may report these cases, their identities are kept secret. We don't expose their identity. So don't fear. Don't commit an offense of GBV by simply looking on. Report, act. We shall also come in and shall help you.
Okay. Now that means those who are the road guards where they have been blowing whistle, that is a form of GBV, is it or not? Those who have been calling ladies sorts of names as they're passing by the defending centers, because this is where we have seen many of times ladies feeling unfair of, and they feel very bad because you are passing, but people are calling you sorts of names in the stages, more so the border stages and other areas where the road guards are always sitting.
You have a right to move anywhere you are. You want to go, and nobody has a right to infringe on your right or your rights. So when someone insults you, that's what called insulting the modesty of a woman.
Okay.
When someone insults you, it's criminal. You can still come. Harassing sexual doesn't mean by harassing you, by touching you. You can pelt a word against someone, sexual word. Maybe whatever you may say, so long as it's sexual in nature.
Okay.
You can report that person. This ordinance will still act on that person.
Okay. Now that means for those who have been sitting by the roadsides calling ladies or men by names, the GBV ordinance is coming for you. And that's where we're coming to the end of the discussions with Afande. Afande, I want to thank you so much for coming through and talk to the people of Uganda about the ordinance that's going to be for Arua City. This is entirely for Arua City. It may not be able to apply in Maracha. It may not be able to apply in Terego. It may not apply in Mariokolo. But so long as you are within Arua City, this is going to impact on you. We are not going to run away from it, because so long as we're within the boundaries and also the confines of Arua City, the law is definitely going to also really apply. I don't know if you have anything to say in just 30 seconds as we wind up with the discussions, as your final word.
People of Arua City, let's work together to implement this ordinance. Let's work together to make sure we curb down GBV. Let's work to make sure we have a mighty city of Arua, which is the second largest city in Uganda.
Okay, that brings us to the end of discussions. My name is Farish Majid, and we are going to be running for the final break, and that will be ushering us in the world of sports, because as always, we summarize our discussions with what is happening internationally and with also what is happening in the world of sports. For now, it's a short commercial breather as we bounce back shortly.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Cameras, check. Lights, check. Sound, check. Judges, check. Action. Get ready for the Miss Uganda Grand Finale live at 8 p.m. on 3rd August 2024. 28 finalists in boot camp. One crown. Who will be the next Miss Uganda? Follow the beautiful journey to the final on Makula Chika, exclusively on Star Times every Friday and Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sponsored by VNA, LMZ, Comform, Mandarin Hotel, Kira Motors, Sheraton, Uganda Airlines, and lead sponsors, Gress Textiles and U-Home.
Miss Uganda 2024. True Ugandan beauty.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Alright, welcome back from that discussion on the GBV ordinance, and now to give you a small bite on what's happening in the world of sports. For the sports consumers, we are saying we are going to be giving you highlights as more details that will be coming through our program of the Whistle Time that will be coming through from 2 to 3 p.m. Owen Ezaga together with Linda Susie, and they will be telling us what is exactly happening, and that's really where we are looking at the schools now today. And I must inform you the different leagues are going on. That's only for the schools, and we did see yesterday also the nationals also climaxing. And I must inform you for the netball, we did go, that's St. Mary's College, that's St. Mary's College Tende, who actually won netball in there and won several trophies in there, and more details that will be coming later on. But now let's look at what's happening internationally, and that's certainly in the world of Champions League qualifiers, where we have seen games going on. And in some of the games that we did see played yesterday, as FK Straga was able to certainly lose, that is to Slovan, but Bratislava by 2-1 in there. And we did see CS Petro Club also really playing and also really winning on aggregate of 1-0. That's also really against Odapsis Kament, and that's really the game that we did see going on yesterday. And we also had several other games. That is where we did see Dino Bibletumi also really losing, that was winning against Ludogorets Razgrad by 1-1. And we did see FC Difrandage 0-3 also really winning, drawing with a club called Class VC. And we did see that game going on. And tonight we are also going to be seeing many games. And of course, yesterday we also did have 2 other games still also really being played on card, where FKFF Gas Ignatia also really was able to beat what we call Borak Banja Luka by 2-1, and that means the club will be advancing to the next level of the Champions League qualifiers after beating the club of Borak Banja by 2-1 in there. And finally, we did see yesterday a club known as RFS thrashing LAN by 4-0. That means also really the club also really will be now advancing to the next stages of the Champions League qualifiers in there. And that is really where we are going to be looking at maybe how the clubs will be faring. But tonight also really we shall be having games still, where in the that's in the world of Europa Champions League or UEFA Champions League qualifiers, where Liapi will be taking on Wisla Krakow, as other clubs like Tobol Konstantin will be taking on Das Rosenbeck. Pefos FC will be taking on LCF Slovak, and we did see also really tonight we shall be having a game that's between Zira and FC Sheriff, and many other games that will be coming on tonight. And we also really want to leave that aside, as that is really where the details of the sports world will be coming through the whistle time. That is with Owen Zaga together with Linda Sunda. And I want to inform you that also really that is where they will be giving a comprehensive analysis of what exactly transpired in the nationals. And remember, our schools also really got edged just around the corners. In that means our Republic was unable to also really represent us in the finals. But we want to congratulate all the teams and all the schools that also really represented our flag very much high in there, as we get to also really move on with the sports. So that's where we also need to let you know that many games will be coming on card, and that's really where it will be very much important for you who love sports. And remember, it being a break, we are not seeing so many stories also already happening in the world of sports, but we are now seeing in the world of transfers, where clubs already, players are linked with club movements to other clubs, where we are now talking about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who has been linked with a move to Saudi Arabia in there. More details to that will be coming later on. And remember, so many others are also still related, also really linked with clubs to move to the other clubs in there. And that's where we come to the end of today's discussions, and more details to what is happening in the world of sports I will be coming from 2 to 3 p.m. But before in there, we have still lots of interesting programs that will be coming your way, as shortly after now we are going to be having the news bulletin Liberty with Fete Manuel that will be starting at 9 o'clock, and then after 9 to 10 we shall be having another program that also really will still be coming our way in. And remember, so many programs which are interesting have also really been assembled. And now we have the Northern Request Hour, which is already going to be coming today with DJ Jero and MC Olivia, and they will be here to also really let you know of what exactly happening in there. And the Chuku and the rest also still will be coming to keep you locked in all the aspects of life. And that's where we want to entertain you, we want to educate you, we want to also really make sure that you are not also really left out in any aspect of life in there. And with that, we come to the end of today's discussions, and we shall be bouncing back tomorrow for the final edition of the KOKOLIRIKO live show for this week. My name is MAJID. Have a very good day, and also really a good time as you continue watching West Nile TV. I'm out until tomorrow. Goodbye.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.